Okay, getting ready. Getting ready to do some little reads. I'm a little bit later today than what I normally am. Look, I have nails. I went out and treated myself today. I didn't get other stuff done though. Probably still need to. You can have tattoos done now and massages. I don't know how safe it all is. Hey, look at you. Yeah, they look pretty cool, don't they? I was quite happy with the colour. But it's just nice to have nails back on again. Hey, how are you, Moira? Although I came in the door, look at my hair. I came in the door and I got on the keyboard to write down for the live. Oh, thanks, Scott, you're a gem. And I couldn't type because it's been a couple of months, I guess, without them. I made the last ones last me a really long time. So, okay. And then now I can book in for all the other things we need doing, the dentist and all the things I put off. So it's fun getting back to normal. My daughter and I had a lovely morning going shopping. It was really pretty cool. It was very, very busy. We've still got quite a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. Hey, how are you, Margie? Quite a lot of people still around. Very busy in the shops. So, but it was good fun anyway. And now I have nails. Happy. They're not my own ones though. Like I have to wait for these to grow so my own nails can get done. Maria, I noticed you'd had your nails done the other day too. How are you? Feel a bit more human. I feel a little bit more dressed now. So, yeah, the dentist actually, I've been going to my dentist for several years and they asked me for a deposit today. And I was like, really? I've been spending thousands upon thousands of dollars here. Everything seemed open today. Everything. I don't think there was much closed at all. So massage parlors are open now. I know that you can get tattoos again. So I'm pretty sure everything's open. Shops were very, very busy. I do notice how much prices have gone up though. So everybody's done the price hike. Hey, Haley, how are you going? So it'll be interesting to see how we go with that. All right, let's get into these readings because I'm a little bit later today. We have one and we'll take a second one. All the essentials. I'd love to have another tattoo and I was planning for it along with a few other things, which I have now changed or not doing anymore. So I haven't even been taking care of myself, really. I've sort of taken a bit of a holiday. Okay. We have frog. So let's have a look at the water sign of the frog. Actually, it's really different today because we've got a frog and the cheetah. And I'm thinking the cheetah is, I don't know if I've pulled the cheetah out before. There we go. All right, let's have a look. Oh, this is about clearing, cleansing, healing. The frog and the water element are almost inseparable. The frog spends its first months of life entirely within the healing element and then emerges to rest on land. But no matter how earthly the frog becomes, its need for cleansing and rejuvenation is regular. Frogs tend to become overworked and undernourished, so it's vital that such sensitive creatures practice self-care. This card serves as a reminder that water helps us cleanse, forgive, and release. Time to dive in. Frogs aren't meant to carry a heavy load. Clear energy and enthusiasm for life. So what's the cheetah? This is about solar force, action, achievement, and masculine energy. The cheetah is the epitome of the solar forces at work. The sun doesn't shine onto the cheetah, it shines from inside this great creature and expands outwards to brighten the universe. The energy within a cheetah personality is palpable to others and they naturally attract an audience to bear witness to their remarkable achievements. Purpose and passion are the best fuel for a cheetah's forward movement. So if you're lacking in those areas, reconnect to the why before you start running. So this is about achieving anything and boundless energy. And it sort of feels like we've been getting this the last few days where it's this, relax, rest up. This one's cleanse and rejuvenate. We've had sort of rest up and get going. So the energies seem to be the same pretty much every day about resting up because something's coming. Resting up because you're going to need your energy. So it's quite interesting. How are you? Maria says she's normal again. I noticed she got her nails done the other day. That was all. So some of us are just going to, and then the frog gets kissed. Yep, we've done a few frogs in our time, haven't we? Oh dear, yeah, never that lucky. All righty. Oh, well, we got 2 out from here too. So this is quite interesting because I don't usually take 2 from this deck, but 2 wanted to come out here. So we have Milk and Honey and Unfinished Symphony. Okay, let's have a read of those. 10 and 51. Got the King of Wands. You got the King of Wands in person. You're a lucky girl. Okay, 10. So this is about unfinished business, an incomplete lesson, lack of closure, and the need to make amends. Well, haven't we heard that a lot lately? And if it was only me saying all this stuff, how do you cleanse your energy? Depends on really, it has a lot to do with how you, what corresponds or what sort of resonates with you in terms of cleansing. You can cleanse your energy just by getting in a shower and just imagining the shower when it's coming down on your skin, that it's cleansing energy away and down the drain. Water signs in particular, I always say them if you've got, you can go swimming. Bathing's really good. You can use salts in your bath to cleanse your energy. So that sort of external stuff's really good. And as far as internal, there's nothing like a really good meditation. But do a meditation for chakra cleaning or cleansing, which is really good. That will help you cleanse your insides. But often if you do the outside stuff and just keep really focused on the inside, that will be enough for you to move the energy along. Hey, Shishi, how are you going? All right, so we're talking about this is a time to tie up loose ends as you near the completion of a cycle. See, this is what these other ones keep saying too. Like, get yourself ready. You're about to close a cycle out here. I have no idea what's going on. It's really beautiful. But every day we've had like relax and rejuvenate in readiness. Today we've had cleanse and get ready. And now we have unfinished symphony. This is a time to tie up loose ends as you near the completion of a cycle or project and the mastery of a lesson or skill. Before you can move forward, it's important that you come to terms with where you are now. Practice radical acceptance. Take inventory so that emotional and psychological closure can occur and the answers you seek will be found. You can't move forward if you're leaving things unfinished. Reflect on what's passed so that the symphony can finally end on a high note. So it's definitely stuff going on in the universe at the moment. I think we're moving on to the land of milk and honey, and I think it's the same message again. Get ready because you're moving on to something new here. Things are changing. And I think because we're changing the way we see the world and our way of viewing the world, we seem to be changing the world itself. Okay, so milk and honey. So forgiveness, making amends, and healing after arguments. So, the oracle's message, each time we are hurt and allow the hurt to pass through us without understanding and integration, we accumulate an unwanted burden. And we've talked about that before, retaining sort of the energies of emotion. This keeps us chained to the very things we need to heal, the pain, the memories, the echoes of resentments, and the arguments that we rehearse over and over. Now is the time for mending rifts, healing wounds, and letting go of the old hurts in order to reclaim your power. Now is the time to forgive, to release, to make peace, and to make amends with others and set yourself free. So there's another thing there, Gillian, for you, is the fact that sometimes we can cleanse our energy by allowing things to go. Allowing ourselves to heal, allowing energies that don't serve us to go. And they include sort of bringing in gratitude and allowing forgiveness or letting go of resentments. All of those things will clear your energy. If you hang on to those things, it's really difficult to move forward. And that's what the Devil card represents in the tarot deck, because it talks about being chained to those things and not allowing yourself to move forward, which is pretty much what we've been told every day. It's something about getting ourselves ready for the next phase, having the energy to get through the next phase, forgiving and learning to have gratitude, allowing the lack mentality to go. All of that has been evident in the readings and in the little dailies we've been doing, so it's quite good. I love change. I'm not much of a normal person. I don't feel uncomfortable with change at all. In fact, I find I get a little bored if I'm sort of doing the same things over and over. And I'm one of these people, I like to master things. So once I've mastered something, it's time to move on. So I'm very, very comfortable with change. But then I've worked in an industry in disabilities and welfare where we've seen so much change over the years. And now I work in, the government job. I do things, yeah. I'm not normal, Scott. That's what makes me interesting. So it's sort of like, for me, mastering something is just it just gives me the energy to try the next new thing. So I'm ready for the change too, Hayley. I think it's going to be very exciting having new stuff coming in. I'm really excited because the classes start up this weekend, so I'm really excited to see how they go. I also, naughty Scott. You're going to get in trouble, Scott. I'd watch it. A beautiful person sent me all these tarot decks and oracle decks, like a few. And one of them that came through, which I thought was amazing, is the Rumi Oracle, which I had not seen before, but this one as well, the Lightworker Oracle. So they're two oracle decks I've never seen before. So the Rumi one, I went to read a card from it, and it actually, it's quite intensive, like the wording and the way it's all written up is quite intensive. But I thought it might be worth pulling a card from here today because it's Rumi. And like a lot of you, I'm a total fan of his poetry. But it's reading his poetry from a book is very intensive, but you've got to sort of glean what you want from that. But look at these cards. Are you? No, my iPad's listening to me again. I was going to turn it off today while I was doing this, so I thought I'd have a look at this Rumi one and just see if I can read you a card from here. It's by Alana Fairchild. I'm sure it's pretty much resplendent with grace. I just want to show you how incredibly beautiful it is. Look. Card 24. And if it's not the sort of card deck that you can just read on a daily read because there's so much writing here, but I thought it would be really nice to have a look together. Hey, Lauren, how are you going? Okay, so greetings from my heart to you who are always with me. Hidden inside is the heart. You are the compass of my life. My course is your way, no matter where I go. You exist everywhere and in everything, always watching over us. My soul brightens in the darkness when I speak your name. Far beyond the body, there is an opening from my heart into yours. Through that opening, I send you secret messages like the moonlight. I polish the mirror of my heart to be your reflection. I make the ear the receiver for the tenderness of your words. You are in the ear, you are in the mind, you are in every burning heart. What am I saying? You are I. This is my way to describe you. I want to listen to you all out there going, oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? So I'll read a little bit into it so you can see how beautiful they are. Your divine grace clothes me in robes of sky blue and blood red, as a shimmering galaxy of compassion within the field which no being is excluded. The darkness of night is illuminated, and all creatures are bathed in the fine golden hue of your presence. There is only beauty beheld now, for there is nothing that is not of your artistry or your divine hand, generous with its grace. And then it goes on to describe what that actually means then. And then it talks about, it gives you a ritual so that you can actually work with the card. And this is about your heart space, being bathed in a light. But I wanted to share that with you because I thought it is just such a stunning, it's taken all the Rumi poetry and put it into a card. And the poems are just, as they always are just beautiful. But I love the symbolism of the Weary and consumed by longing, I was caressed by my beloved last night. My wounded soul was set free when I tasted the sweetness of love. My spirit was lifted at once. I surrendered my life while overflowing with joy, and my vision was filled with light. Love said, "Don't feel so hopeless, my weary and gloomy one, for my generosity is beyond forgetting those devoted to me. See how boundless divine justice can be. Behold my immeasurable kindness." Love embraced my spirit, and all my doubts vanished at once. A new and glorious robe of honor was placed upon my shoulders. Love offered me the power of new vision and the transforming touch of divine generosity, and placed the chalice of eternal wine in my hand. What can I say? Absolutely stunning, stunning, beautiful cards. Okay, so the other thing too, before we move on, because a couple of people, you have them too, Maria. Yeah, they're beautiful, aren't they? How are you, Melanie? I'm just making sure. Vane, how are you going? Don't forget to send me your email address if you want to be included in the G's gang. I'm going to put it into a Zoom email and send it all out to you over the next week or so. And I'm thinking of doing those on a Saturday morning around about 10 a.m. Aussie time. So I think for some of you that would sort of work out to be the evening before. I didn't mean to make you too mushy. We're all mushy at the moment. I'm much better than what I was yesterday. It was just a really tough day yesterday. So I woke up this morning sort of a bit bouncy, so that helped a bit. But yeah, it was a tough day yesterday. Oh, Lauren. I'll have some eternal wine. Nowadays, I don't think it's so much eternal, is it? Like they pump out the wine really quickly nowadays. None of this sitting around waiting for it for 20 years. So everybody's up for a wine. So I can see all the wine glasses coming up on the screen. I'll be drunk if I had that much wine. 2 glasses is my limit. Someone's put 2 up there. That does me. I don't know. It's something to do with the empathy, I think. I'm cheap drunk. I don't have to worry. It doesn't cost me a lot to get to drink. Doesn't take a lot for me to feel a bit silly when I'm drinking. Where was I saying? Yes, so we're getting a Zoom group together. So, a spider dream's good. Spider dreams are about money. So they're really good. Yeah, you want spider dreams. But if you like real spiders, you can come and stay with me for a while. I seem to have quite a lot of them around here. I feel that I must have had a nest of spiders like erupt at the same time, because I've got all these huntsmen and they're all about yay big, I guess. Have some big ones too, but most of the ones I've got at the moment are about this big. So they're all over the house. Yeah, really good. Spiders talk of money, coming into money. Yeah, I don't know what the energy is in there. Like, it's bad enough that we've got all the stuff going on overseas, but yesterday was oh, yuck. Yeah, lots of money. Lauren, I'm thinking lots of money if they were tarantulas. Yeah, it was just tough energy yesterday. I could not, even when I went to bed last night, I was just, I don't know, just a really, like that feeling of impending doom. I don't like that feeling at all. Sucking the spiders up in the vacuum. No, Lauren's talking about dreaming of spiders. Melissa, it's a good omen to dream of spiders. It means that you're coming into money. So it's one of the good things. Oh God, I'm all getting all tangled up in my oh, okay. I didn't see the moon. I can't remember barely what happened yesterday. It was such a weird day. Hey, Sarah, how are you going? So I was glad to get up this morning and feel the energy was a bit lighter today than what it was yesterday. But anyway. Hello? So we've got the iPad and the phone both going again. Yeah, you're much better today too. I actually bounced out of bed this morning. I felt really good. So I don't know. The energy was much better. Okay, so you should take it should be but this is be what we should be doing is posting some of those. It's a shame we can't do them on here really, isn't it? Because it'd be really nice to see people's photos and pictures. Be good to get a site up like that. Unless you want to post them on the Aussie Goddess site, I can do that. Um, yeah, I think it was the lunar eclipse that got us yesterday. I thought it was yesterday. I don't know. It was really weird. See, Linda said she cried all day. A few people said that, Linda. A few people said they were really teary. We were all very teary. So hopefully things start picking up again. But I think it's going to be like this for a little while because there's going to be quite a few planets in alignments that they haven't had for like hundreds of years, 20, 30 years, and a few really strange ones. So, oh, a large onyx black slug. Wow, there you go. Yeah, see, Lauren, that's what I did after I left here yesterday. I went and watched a couple of things on the telly and just sort of, I don't know, decided to chill out a little bit. And that was why it was so nice to go out today, but I did need stuff. So it was good to get out the house, but still very busy around. Um, yeah, see, everybody's been a bit teary the last few days. You had a dream you were a way shower. A way shower. I don't know what that is at all. Linda's birthday's on the eclipse. Are you causing that, Linda? See, Saturn and Pluto start a new 12-year cycle. Apparently, they haven't been together for a long time. I guess that's why Capricorn's going to have a bit of a problem with the Saturn thing, because it's Cancer and Capricorn, isn't it? Slug, divine masculine and feminine, also slow and steady, be patient. Oh my goodness, patience is my middle name. I have used to be terrible with my patience. I've got how now, Dean? How are you going? I'm much better than I used to be, but I know probably you're all the same. As I've got older, I've got a lot better. I was a terrible control freak and I loved everything being done nice and quickly. I couldn't stand things to sit around. Nowadays I don't worry so much. And my daughter said to me a couple of weeks ago, I can't believe how much you've changed. I don't know. I'm just much more easygoing than I used to be, I guess. Patience is making you patient. 4 years. There you go. I was reading this morning because I was doing some research this morning and they were talking about, the time for twin flame relationships to come back together. Because obviously a lot of people talk about, and soulmates too. And they were saying like it can be, anything from a few weeks to several years or more. We had a woman on here last week who said 40 years. She came back with her twin flame, but they weren't destined to be together. They didn't really, had a good conversation. She was happy to see that he'd done a lot of sort of spiritual development, but they didn't come together. But I was reading this morning that the average time for twin flames to come together was between 1 and 2 years. That's the average time. So even though a lot take a lot longer and a lot take a lot shorter, the average time as far as this website was concerned was between 1 and 2 years. So I'm presuming that they maybe tested a few people. Sarah, there's 2 people on my Facebook page. One was 20 and one was 30. And then we had that woman the other day who was 40 years. So I don't know. That's why when people say how long, I'm like, how long is divine timing? It's difficult. So 2 years in October for Melissa. Hey, Caitlin, how are you going? Are you stopping for a break? I hope the weather's nice where you are. Well, it's really funny because I've known 3 couples who've got separated by the COVID, who've been in different countries when the lockdown's gone and they've had to stay where they were. So I think that would be an amazing test of your resilience for your relationship being locked down in a different country. But I also think it's really heavy duty for people to be locked down in a home that don't get along well. And we've seen a huge rise in domestic violence here in Australia, and I'm sure it has been in other countries as well. Sometimes I'm glad for that reason that I don't live with anybody. No, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. I just think that it would be really difficult if you had already a troubled or toxic relationship to be locked down with someone for a period of time. It must be very hard. Um, so absence makes the heart grow fonder. It also, they say that, but sometimes if you've got a little bit of a wedge already, absence can be the killer. It can really destroy things too. So I think has he 7 children? I didn't realize that. Wow. You don't do easy. He's much younger, Muslim, and has 7 kids. Like, it's not unusual for your twin to be a lot older or a lot younger. It's not unusual for them to be already committed in another relationship. It's unfortunate, it just seems to be the way it is. But when I was reading up on it this morning, I thought it's really interesting that they've been able to put time limits or time, not really time limits, you know, estimates of time on things. So I thought you might like to hear that. Yes. Oh, golly, for years we lived next door to this couple who used to fight every weekend. And the kids used to sit in the lounge room and they wouldn't even put the television on. They used to sit and listen to them, my children, because they would be really entertaining. And that would just start every weekend, first thing Saturday morning, and they never let up till Sunday night. I don't even know what they had, quite a few children too. So obviously they found time in between. Maybe it was makeup sex, I don't know, but they seemed to find time to have children. But they would fight from early Saturday morning and they would just keep going. It just went on all weekend. It was just awful. Oh, you're talking now, Nadine. Yeah, that's it. You've got to just look after yourself. A lot of people, I don't know that you can get rid of the energy. You can certainly break the attachment. That you can do. It takes a little bit of work, but you can do that. You don't get rid of the energy. The love still stays, but the attachment, which is that real draw or that real cord to them, you can do something with that that doesn't make it quite so painful. Lauren said she'll take a new one, thanks, which I think a lot of people are doing now, understanding that you just can't put your life on hold for someone no matter how you feel about them. You just can't do that. That just is not the right thing to do for yourself. So yeah, going and having a bit of fun, enjoying yourself, that's the way to go. And you all the way. Yeah. Yep, I agree. Go out and have fun, enjoy yourself. And a lot of people do, and that's what I said. It's, yeah, see, the love is there. When you get to the point where you can say you love somebody, but you're not attached anymore, that is where it comes to, where you feel a strange sense of peace. When you get to that point, it's really feels very, very comfortable, but it takes a lot of work to get you there. High five. Yeah. So you got to fall in love with yourself. Yeah. And when you can look in the mirror and you can look in the mirror and say you love yourself as much. One thing I did read, which I thought was really interesting, I did write it down somewhere. Just see if I've got it here. No, I may not have. I may have written it down somewhere else. But there was a really good little bit of an article. I got something out of it, which I thought was really sort of explained that whole journey. Yeah, see, there you go. Yeah, exactly. It is definitely about being unconditional and accepting, and that feeling that you get, that real draw, that attachment, that's all your damage coming through. I know what it was. It said something like, oh, how did it go? The chaser is not good with the separation and has to work through the separation. The runner has to work through the fear of the feeling. I think that's how it worked. It was really well put anyway. It sort of made me realize. Yeah, very good, Melissa. And that's where you should be. That's where you should be. But what happens is we concentrate so much on the pain and suffering. It's a very human thing to do. And I think it somehow comes down through religion, the pain and suffering we're taught to do. And that's really not, you need to put that energy into healing yourself. And that is really difficult. especially at first, because it's grief. You're going through grief. So you're grieving a relationship the same way as you would grieve a death. It's exactly the same thing. So you've still got to go through all the phases and release and whatever else. Now, even without being in a twin flame relationship, sometimes friendships, relationships, family can all be the same. But that grief process is the part that you need to work your way through. So you can only go a little bit at a time and address a little bit at a time until they're absolutely until you feel comfortable. Yeah, attachment styles are really part of the whole thing, and that's why I would say to people it's quite interesting, because after studying attachment and abandonment as children, and the twin flame relationship fits exactly into that. So you have the two types of the attachment disorder that come together. I don't know why we're drawn to people who have the opposite to what we do. So it's really strange how I'm trying to think how to explain it quickly, but it's really strange how that we're like magnets for each other. But that magnetic effect helps us to heal because the idea is for us to get in and start healing it. But it's sort of funny how it aligns, the twin flame relationship aligns with the psychology, and the psychologists will poo-poo the twin flame thing. But yeah, the thing is that, they're talking about archetypes and all that sort of stuff. But the most interesting thing is everybody's relationship within that twin flame sort of syndrome is the same. Everybody has the same story. It may vary a little bit, but in all of it, it's sort of pretty much the same energy. So what you're doing in effect is healing something the psychologists call attachment disorder or abandonment issues. But anyway, it's quite interesting. Oh my goodness, there was a lot of writing. Yeah, it definitely is about attachment styles. It's about, and that's what the players are. When people talk about players and people who can't commit, they have an attachment style as well, an attachment issue. And their problem is they wear masks and they get into a relationship and they can't let you see who they truly are. So the moment their real personality starts to come out and you see that, it's possible that they may run because they don't want you to see that side of them. They're so busy play acting a different side. So players tend to move from person to person so they don't have to really show their true self. The other side, the anxious avoidant, are the ones that will run from relationships as well. So there's sort of like an anxious and an avoidant component to that too. So that's the fear of commitment. But see you, bye, Maria. You're gone already. I just want to make sure. Yeah, it's the pain that actually, it's healing the pain that really starts to get rid of the past stuff for you. So, yeah, working the same people in addictions. People with addictive personality are just the same. It's all comes back to that childhood stuff around I love that, Gigi. I agree with you. Yeah, that's exactly right. So people that have addictions, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, all part of that abandonment attachment disorder. So, oh, Western Australia. Hi, honey. Oh, there you go, honey. Hello, how are you? Haven't seen you on here before. I don't know. It's really funny because it's just the way it happens, but then you get people in secure attachments tend to attract people with secure attachment as well, but the other two tend to attract each other. So I don't really know why that is. Maybe because they're both wearing masks in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, it can become toxic. The reason it becomes toxic is because one person's investing and the other person isn't. Yeah, crazy. I don't know. I can't answer why it happens that way. If you take it from the twin flame perspective, then we were meant to do that and we're meant to heal, and that's the whole idea of it. If you take it from a psychology perspective, well, you blame your parents. She's an avoider. Ah, yes. All right, so Hayley's going, people going. See you next time. Energetic processes you can recommend. Oh, thanks, honey. Oh, you're not going. um, Energetic process. How do you do it? Okay. The first thing is, in order to separate and to do attachment or to work with the attachment stuff, you have to have an understanding of your own childhood. And I always say to people, you've got to work out or read up on what happens to children and how they develop that sort of attachment style to start with. So having a good understanding of your parenting is really important. And keeping in mind, abandonment doesn't mean you didn't have good parents. It may have been the style of parenting they had. And it comes down to really the first 2 years of your life, 18 months to 2 years of your life, where you're building those trust attributes, learning to trust people. So having an understanding of that is really important. But the most important thing is you've got to want to separate. And a lot of people don't want to be, and I get it all the time. I don't want to let him go. I don't want to let her go. Why? You're not going to go anywhere until you've let them go. And if you're still really talking about it, then you're not really letting them go because you're still grieving. So it's got to come to the point where you feel comfortable enough to be able to let them go and trust that if anything was going to happen, that you're going to come back together, the universe will work that out for you. Because if you're meant to be together, you will come back together regardless. And however length of time that takes, you should be so comfortable in your own skin that it doesn't matter if it takes a long time. It doesn't matter if it doesn't take a long time. But the most important thing is you've got to want to give that suffering away. And some people just feel that that really defines them to do that suffering. And when you say to people, you've got to learn to let go of that person's energy, they will say to you, but I don't want to because then he might forget me or she might just not remember who I am. Well, actually, it works the other way. And whether you take it from the psychological perspective or the spiritual perspective, if you take your energy away from someone, soul level, you can feel it's gone. So that's the first thing. And then you've got to work on yourself. So you've got to remember, if you are in a twin flame relationship or if you're in a relationship with a strong life soulmate, you have to do your own healing. It's not even about the other person. It's about you and about you healing. And you've got to start there. So I always say the most important thing is learn how to meditate, because if you can get out of your head for a little while every day, you don't feel so exhausted from thinking about it all the time. And you've got to learn to invest in yourself, because the reason you've got that relationship in the first place, the reason you feel that way and you feel that pain is because you feel it as rejection. There is no such thing as rejection. That's something to do with your own childhood and something that happened within your childhood that makes you feel like you've been rejected. So you're dealing with the rejection. You're dealing with the fact you can't have that person, and how are you going to live without that person? But you should be able to live as yourself. But that's what you have to learn. So there is a lot of work that goes into it. You've got to be really dedicated to do it, but mostly you've got to want to let go. And that's what a lot of people find really hard, is the letting go. And you've got to trust that the universe will do that. And a lot of us don't trust because we didn't do that, and we didn't learn to trust the universe in the first couple of years of life. So I always talk, the easiest way to understand that is when a baby cries, a little baby cries. Mum comes in, gives them a little pat on the bottom, checks their nappy, makes sure they're not hungry, gives them a little bit of a cuddle and pops them back to bed. You may leave a baby to cry for just a couple of minutes, but then you go in and check, give them a little pat, whatever you need to do, and you put them back to bed. So baby learns, when I cry, someone comes and gets me. That's how trust is developed. Now, if you don't develop that trust in the first couple of years of life, all the other things that come after that, all your learning around your own personality, your own development, all gets built on that trust element. So if you're going into, the next stage of life and you're trying to learn, and you've not got a parent there that is secure, or a secure attachment to one parent at least. So a lot of kids will develop like social phobia or fear of being abandoned. You know how children cry when mum walks out the room. but they know mum will come back after a period of time. So those sort of things start really sort of reinforce what the child has learned in the first couple of years. If you have absent parents, so parents who don't show the love, don't pay you attention, may have drug or alcohol problems, or, narcissistic parents, whatever they are, if they're not consistent with that love and they leave you to cry for too long, and then next time they come and grab you quickly, but the next time they leave you for longer, then eventually it starts to destroy your sense of who you are, because you're crying out for something and somebody's not coming. So it's all built in that first couple of years. And then, of course, as you get older, and it's only been, I think, the 1940s, Bowlby actually came up with the idea that actually affected our adult relationships as well. So there were three, I think they've got a whole heap of other variations on the avoidant attachment disorders now. But there were only three to start with, as far as I'm aware, but I haven't read about it for a while. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? It is, honey. And hey, Queen of Water, how you going? Yeah, trusting is the hardest thing. Trusting is the hardest thing. But I've met people who've just gone on with their lives, and they've said they've never forgotten that person. They've still have an enormous amount of love for that person, but they've still gone on and managed to have a healthy relationship with someone else once they've healed. So there's no reason why you can't move on with your life. I don't think that thank you. It is a process. So I think if you're going to wonder how to do it, number one is you need to have a look at what sort of parenting you had when you were young. Now, don't forget, over attentive parents can do some, I don't want to say damage, because that doesn't mean, you might have had really good parents, but you may have been over cared for. You may have never been allowed to cry, so you never learned to self-soothe. So that can be a problem too. And those sort of things develop as you go through life. So your parenting, the parents are very important in those early years, but they're also important throughout your whole life for consistency. So it's good to have an understanding of that. It's good to have an understanding of child development. Really good. If you're looking up that, look up Erikson's stuff, because it's really easy to understand. Once you've understood the child development stuff, then you start working on, because once you have an understanding of why you're feeling that pang of desire, you have to start working on your future stuff. So you're letting go of the pain of the past, but you're also understanding you can't control the future. You can't control someone else's love for you. You can't control what they do with their life. And then you have to let that side of things go too. So it's very much about learning to live in the moment. And that's where the trust comes in. So once you start to trust, and that's in a nutshell, it really is not that simple. It's not that simple. For most people, I think Erikson's really good. Yes, honey, very good. I've got a really good book. I've got it here. That's really, really helps you. Once you understand parenting, child development, all those sort of things, you will understand why you attach to people. And very often, and I always laugh about that, because I always say Freud was right, you tend to attract people to you that have the same sort of love style as your parents did. So if you had very secure parents, then you probably are going to attract a very secure partner. But if you have parents who weren't so attentive, or were over attentive, then you're very often going to attract the opposite to yourself, which is why we get that runner chaser dynamic. Yeah, and I think the thoughts are going to pop into your head, but that's sort of part of the folding down of the negative thinking as well, the lack. So don't forget, you're sitting in this energy of lack because you don't have a person in your life, this energy of rejection because you feel that you've been rejected, when in reality you haven't been rejected at all. And then you're doing all of these things. Yeah, you've got to just, feel it like it's about It's about the healing. I mean, this is why it's really hard with twin flame relationships, because that people want the romance and the lovey-dovey stuff, and it really isn't about that. It's about you healing your soul. So too much talking. Yeah, so it's very interesting, very interesting. But you know, most people go through the same thing. It would be like having a person die around you. That grief could last for one person just a few months, and for the next person, it might take, you know, a long time. I've seen people grieving for people several years. It just depends on how much you want the suffering and how much you want to feel free. And once you do the healing, and once you get yourself to that point where you feel really very at peace with yourself, and you don't feel that draw anymore, that drag, that horrible feeling of wanting, once you get to that point, then you can feel really good and start really getting into your own healing. Yeah, they create. No, I think that's the misconception. I think that's the misconception, that a lot of people think the relationship is about sort of the coming together of two people romantically, because it's not about that at all. The hard part, I think, the hardest part of all, is when someone leaves you and doesn't allow you to talk that through. And that was what I found the most difficult thing. You know, when you have a very intense connection with someone, and then to heal that, you need to talk. You need to talk about your feelings. You need to put it out there why you felt that way. And often, you know, the door is closed down on you, the person ghosts you, and you have no way to talk all those feelings through, which is human to want to do that. That is the most difficult thing of all, because then you can't work through what you need to work through. It's about the healing more than anything. And the idea is, if you can do the healing in separation, then if you're a twin flame that is brought back into union with your person, then you can work together to do healing for others and healing for the universe. So, you know, if that is the case, that is what it's all about, not a romantic relationship. It's about, you know, healing the planet. And whether you're healing on your own or whether you're healing with someone else, so important. So that's what it's all about. The neediness, that's just, again, that comes back to your childhood stuff, that wanting, that desire, and, you know, and not having something. It's like being told you can never eat chocolate again. It's disastrous. But you come to some sort of realization after a while that you can do without chocolate. You don't really need it if you don't have to have it. Well, the thing is, ultimately, you can be on your own and still do some incredible healing with people, regardless of whether you've healed within yourself. I guess the really nice thing is, if you understand the journey, then you can always share, you know, what sort of things you might have done to get past those energies, which I think is incredible. But I think that is the most amazing thing. And once you've healed, once you get to a point where you feel really comfortable with yourself, as I said, you may, you know, not even desire anything beyond or with that anymore, because you're so comfortable with who you are. That doesn't mean that you know, stop it coming through your door if you had the opportunity. It just means that you have this like a complete sense of peace with it, and that's what you're after. And hopefully that's what you want from it. But, you know, some relationships, people don't want them back. You know, sometimes you think what that person's done has probably been quite cruel when you think about it. Why would you want somebody back in your life? I'm not saying for everybody, but you think about it, how cruel some of those people are. I mean, the fact that they're not able to talk about their feelings, they run, they hide, they don't give you an opportunity to talk through your feelings either. I mean, that is really tough. And I hear about people and I think, maybe that just wasn't the right thing to do to someone. But again, it comes back to childhood injury and how comfortable you are about talking about things. And if you're running away from your feelings, so don't forget the runner's running from their feelings. The chaser is running after the feelings, not away from them. They want the feelings, but the runner's running away from the feelings. They don't want to do it. So they don't even want to face up to it or front it. So, that in itself is really difficult then, because you can't both sit down and talk through what's happened. That's beautiful, Nadine. Now, that's a really nice thing to say. And that's what it was about, Hayley, in the first place. Like, this is why I want to do the Zoom group, so that people can always come together and talk about this stuff. Because, when you've been through something that's broken your heart, there's nothing like having someone understand. And for some people, they need to talk through stuff. And I know that we've all had that friend who's talked and talked and talked, and you think, oh my God, here we go again. But you listen. You listen because people need to talk through it, whatever it is. Because talking through it is the only way you can stop yourself from feeling it. If you don't get an opportunity to talk, then how do you heal? Because you need to work through that energy, through those feelings. But a runner will go into denial. They won't do anything with that. They close it down completely and they forget, and they go into this state of just not wanting to acknowledge it at all. And it eats away inside of them. So at least if we're talking about it and sharing it and understanding each other, then that in itself is healing us. So you're dealing with a person who's not healing. So they have to make a conscious attempt at healing. We immediately go into healing. We're far more sort of aware of the journey. So we immediately go into that, but for a lot of the people who are running, they don't. They just go and get themselves involved in another relationship, another situation. I'm going to sneeze. And no. No sneeze. Thank you, Hayley. Yeah, so that you can understand how stuffed up people must be. How all that anger, the anger because they can't have what they want, the denial of all the feelings. A lot of people go and get into drugs and alcohol because it helps them deal with that emotion. And I have people saying to me, well, would he remember me? Would he even care? Is he even thinking about me? Well, of course he is. You've done the same thing to him as what he's done to you. Of course he is, or of course she is. But they close down. They don't acknowledge it. Oh, thanks, Sarah. Yeah. Nails. Talking is what we do. We're human beings. We need to talk. And if you don't have someone to talk to, and that's what I said, sometimes when you're healing and you're hurt, unfortunately, I'm the bottler. I'm not very good at doing it. I never have been. Again, obviously something to do with the childhood stuff. So I tend to sort of bottle everything up too, which has been a problem. And it's been part of my healing, is learning to express my feelings. But I'm usually a runner. What can I say? I don't want to front the feelings either. It doesn't feel comfortable for me. So I would rather run. Which has been a problem for me because I've had to understand commitment phobia. And I run, so I close it down. I don't want to talk about it. I'm out of there. I'm gone. So that has been really, really hard for me to acknowledge. I feel like at the moment, I feel like Richard Gere in Pretty Woman when he says something about his psychologist. Learning to speak his feelings, learning to understand that. I came from a family where we didn't talk about our feelings. We still don't. I don't talk to my family anymore because of that. Every time I tried to talk about feelings, I would get shut down because my family aren't comfortable with it. It's just not something they've ever done. And that was a problem for me. because I had to learn how to express myself. So I'm getting better. I am getting better. I could talk about it now, but I've tried a few times when things have happened and I want to shut down, run away, put my head in a pillow and not come back out again. So I don't want to front those feelings either. Um, I was very scared of conflict. I've been a person that for a very long time. Um, and running, yeah. See, Sarah, you've got an English mother too, haven't you? It's a very English thing to do, not to talk about your feelings, not to talk about the past, not to talk about your past hurt or pain. Apparently, that's really bad. So it gets closed down every time. And because of that, it's been a problem. Learning how to express. And then when someone does that, if you get ghosted by someone and you're not able to talk about it, that's really difficult then, because you're trying to learn through your own way of doing things, not to run, but closing down and running is what I've been doing. It's been really difficult for me too. Yes, it's the conflict stuff. Yeah, it was a very English thing. Yeah, very English. I can remember even from a young child, like, if you cried, you got told, little girls don't cry. Stop being such a baby. What are you doing? You don't cry. So for many, many, many years, I never cried. I bottled everything up inside of me. And of course, but I never got angry either. So the anger was inside me too. So I had all this anger and grief and misery inside of me, and I never knew how to express myself. So when people got angry with me, I bottled even more. I shied away. I was a little mouse. And I learned to deal with that. I had to learn to deal with it because I managed people. So there were times when I had to bring them in and talk to them about their behaviors and perhaps having to put them off or sack them. So I had to learn how to talk to people. So it's been a very long journey for me, but I could do it at work and I could do it with the people at work, but I couldn't do it in my personal life. Very, very hard for me to do it in my personal life. So it's a disaster in relationships. Um, oh, possibly. Yeah, possibly, Nadine. I think that, our parents probably weren't. We come from the Victorian times where people just, stiff upper lip and all that sort of crap. So, yes, it could be parents too. But when you have, two narcissistic parents, that is really, really difficult because that becomes um, a complex web because the children that you grow up with are often learn to adapt to the narcissistic behaviors of the parents as well. So you could end up, in theory, in a house load of people who are quite narcissistic or have personality disorders, which means that you may never get an opportunity to open up or express yourself. So I don't think that you can. I think you can hold your parents responsible if they were able to be responsible. But if you had parents who, would drank alcohol, took drugs, were violent and aggressive, abusive, all those sort of things, then it's really hard to hold them responsible because I can remember as a young person people saying to me, "Oh, you should forgive your parents because they were young and they didn't know what they were doing." Well, I'm sorry. There's only so much of that you can do. You're an adult. Get out there and fix yourself. If you're not in a decent position to raise your children properly, then you should be looking at your own behaviors first so you can become good parents. But there was a lot of excuses and a lot of this attitude of, you need to make room for people. You need to be, more forgiving. Well, where's the forgiveness for the child? And that's become so complex then. So it's all very well to say to someone, well, it could be someone's, they were so young when they got married, or, maybe it was their parents' fault, or their parents were really abusive. When do you stop sort of pushing the blame somewhere else? Like, really take responsibility. And if you haven't got the mental acuity to do that, if you have, some sort of mental disorder like sociopathy or psychopathy or whatever, well, maybe you can't adjust that for your children. But we always say people can have children, can't they, regardless? Gigi, you always talk about your life, and I always think I would love to sit down and have a conversation with you about your family, because some people are, so yeah, I get you, Sarah, I do. But some people are, are so good with their kids. I don't know, you hear people, the way they talk to their children, and they really allow their children to be really honest and upfront with them. And I think it would be really, see you go. So you went from having good parents, Gigi, to being good with your own children. Oh, yeah. Oh, really open-minded. Oh, that's different. There is a lot of the closing down. If you have narcissistic families, they tend to sort of present this idea to the community that you're, this wonderful family where nothing ever goes wrong. Like, everybody's in denial about, what happens at home. It's really odd. So she says she wanted to hide her thoughts, and her parents were very much about talking about them. So that's quite interesting. Yes, absolutely. And I think it's about having good emotional intelligence, which is a little bit, I think, underrated in our society. Listen to me, because I'm speaking up. My throat's going. So I think that it is about listening to your children, and it is about asking your children. But I agree with Gigi, perhaps a lot of kids, maybe don't want to talk about their feelings too. But it's always having the door open so that they can talk. But we know that, in our society, generally, without being sexist, that it's the boys that are less likely to talk about their feelings. And I've met people over the years, and I think, our generation probably more so closed down, unable to talk about feelings. But I do think that, boys have probably been raised a little bit more to be a bit tougher, which I think is a bit of a shame. Thanks for joining us, Sarah. Nice to see you. Need to roll naked in aloe vera gel. That sounds awesome. Wow, okay. Nadine, that's really interesting. Yeah, beautiful. Oh, look at all these beautiful talents you people have. Honey's a singer. Throat clearing moments too. Singing's so good for you if you have problems with your throat chakra. I think it's really interesting how to do that with your children. Unfortunately, because I wasn't a good talker, I wasn't very good at talk about my feelings. Unfortunately, I have a great relationship with my daughter now, and we talk about everything. But with the other two, they're not so great in their own relationships, really. But because I probably role modeled the whole bottling things up and not saying anything, wearing the pain, keeping the pain inside, not expressing it, which is a bit sad. But anyway. Can I say to you, Gigi, I can tell you that's exactly what my son said to me. So my three children had completely different punishments, because the eldest one was a very liked to be inside, liked to watch television, and if there was a problem or issue, grounding them would have been a waste of time, because they pretty much grounded themselves. So, the punishment there was no television, no computer, whatever. My next child was an outdoor kid. He was outside all the time. He was very popular and he was always around his friends and always doing things outside. And so his punishment, if he had done something naughty, was to be grounded because that was what worked with him. My daughter was great. I only had to raise my voice to my daughter. She thought she disappointed me. She would be absolutely distraught. But I do remember my son saying to me one day when I said he was grounded for a week for something he'd done, or 2 days, whatever it was, probably wouldn't have been a week. And he said to me, "Why can't you just spank me like normal parents do?" And I was like, yeah, exactly for that reason. Because if I were to spank you, it would be over and done with and you wouldn't have learned your lesson. So it's quite interesting. Um, yeah, that's a bit of a shame, isn't it? The man up thing. Yeah, that's not a good thing at all. Hey, Carla, how you going? Yeah, I know. See, that's the sort of thing. But, sometimes you're listening to television, even in this day and age. Sometimes you're listening to television and you hear people say things and you think, wow, that just isn't the right thing to say to someone. A lot of our language is a little, I always talk about this because of some of the language things that I really feel uncomfortable with. But we do tend to sort of say things that support males and female social role modeling. Um, but unfortunately, yes, that's it. That's exactly right. No, see, nobody jokes, Scott. Joking isn't doing that. That's not joking. And what happens is a lot of people say things, and when you tackle them and say, you just said something that hurt my feelings, or you shouldn't say that to the children, they'll say that they were only joking. But actually, that's a really narcissistic way of managing something. So, what someone's trying to do there is assert their manhood, and that's not a good way to go. Children are children, they're very, very impressionable. Um, and a lot of people don't have empathy, so it doesn't really matter. To man up is a very New Zealand expectation too. It creates a power differential. So then men think that they're superior to women because they've manned up. I hear it all the time. Don't cry like a girl. Well, what do you mean? Do girls cry and men shouldn't? Is that the way it is? Don't be a girl and cry. We hear those sort of things, idioms in our language all the time. I worked with a guy, golly, I don't know how many times I pulled him in my office and spoke to him, and he never got it. He used to come into the office all the time and he'd say hello to the guys and not to the girls. And sometimes if the girls got upset, he'd say things like, "Oh, you got your monthlies," and things like that. Seriously, this is a grown man. And I pulled him into the office so many times and said to him, that is not appropriate. That is not an appropriate way to speak to people. So, I mean, it's very ingrained in our culture and language to treat people differently. And we have the problem now with race because of that, because people think they're superior. So some people think they are better than others and they treat people so. So a lot of you people are talking about how your family treat each other, or the fathers treat their children. We're all equal. Nobody is better than anyone else. We're all equal. And I remember somebody saying that to me years ago. When you take off everybody's clothes and you stand them there naked, they are no different to the next person. No different whatsoever. We all bleed red. Oh, Vicky, how you going? Yeah, I'm sure that men should cry. I've met men that don't cry at all, and I've seen them grieving without crying, and I'm like, what are you doing with all those tears and all those outlets? What are you doing? It's really sad that you're keeping everything to yourself. If you feel like having a good cry, go for it. I'm not going to view you any different if you need to. Um, Yeah, my twin grandsons have always got painted nails. They love having their nails painted. Yeah, no, it's definitely crying is a normal thing. Crying is a cathartic thing to do. It's a normal thing to do for anybody. And if you're holding back emotion, then that is not healthy. Full stop. Um, yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. I think that we do the best we can as parents, and we have, we have to do what we know best. I know a lot of my parenting came from trying to do things very different to what my own parents did, because I remember thinking those sort of things really did me a lot of damage. So I was never physical with my children. I'm sure they still got a smack on the butt or a smack on the hand if they were doing something that really required that. But for the most part, I wasn't physically aggressive with children. So I think we learn a lot from what we don't want, but we don't always get it right either. And that's okay too. So we may not always be the, most perfect parents, but I guess at the end of the day, you do what you do best with what you've been taught as well, which is really difficult. Um, yeah, it is really hard. The vulnerability I get to, that's one thing I had a lot of difficulty to doing. um, Yeah, the twins, we've got pictures again of the twins running around in Ivy's fairy dresses. We thought it was quite funny, and their father was horrified, absolutely horrified, that we might turn them gay because they were wearing fairy dresses. Um, yeah, and I think you have to acknowledge that with your children too. Like, I talked about some of my childhood stuff with them to try and explain things to them, to try and help them out to understand why things were the way they were. But again, we're not going to get it all right. There were certain things I certainly didn't get right with my kids, but what can you do? Brené Brown, The Power of Vulnerability. What a great talk that was. And there was a cartoon made up for that too, which was absolutely delightful. And I remember watching that to try and understand what being vulnerable was about, because as an empath, you tend to think of vulnerability as sharing and oversharing. So, I mean, obviously, we have to learn about boundaries. So, the sort of oversharing thing and then being vulnerable. And I couldn't quite differentiate between the two. So, I was trying to understand. And someone said to me, watch Brene Brown's thing on vulnerability. You can get it on YouTube. So, watch it. It's really cool. Yeah, I know, Scott, I do, but you've got to just challenge people. You have to challenge people. If you do nothing else, then you challenge them. And if they do it to your children, then you definitely stand up for your children and challenge. If it's not right, don't put up with it. Um, yeah, she's brilliant. I really like her a lot. But there's a few people that I really enjoy, but I just think that I watched her do something the other day and I thought she's just so easy to sit and watch and listen to. Um, I was very strict. I was a very strict parent. We still talk about the fact that I was so strict, but that was the way I thought it was done. So, yeah, buttoned up. Anyone who numb or tend to escape. Yeah, the TED Talks are great too for looking at particular things. I really enjoy them. But anyway, I better go. It's well over an hour. It's been a great talk today. We get into some great conversations, don't we? Don't forget to send me your email address if you want to be included in the Zoom group and the G's gang. Yeah, see, smacking's okay. I'm talking beatings, physical beatings. So I think smacking it depends on how you're talking about smacking, because some people think that smacking their children's belting them up. I think that, giving your child a bit of a tap on the bottom or a tap on the hand if they're doing something dangerous is okay, but hitting a child because you're angry with them is not okay. But all right, I'm going. So I will see you tomorrow. Mwah! Thank you for joining me.